running a company as a female, I mean, it's tough. You have obstacles all the time. We have a boat manufacturing business in Florida. So I was kind of in a man's world designing boats and manufacturing. And there's always people that go, wait, like, you're a woman, this can't happen. So do you find that?
All right, here we go. Welcome to Girls Gone Gritty. We truly have an inspiring guest for us today in our Bring It On studios. We want to welcome Josephine Rocco, a powerhouse businesswoman and a passionate social advocate. In the midst of the pandemic, when the world was unraveling, Josephine emerged a beacon of resilience and resistance. As the owner of Paso Rio Aracos, a beloved bakery and diner in Brooklyn, she became a fierce voice of determination. While many businesses struggled and some even closed, Josephine stood strong, refusing to let COVID dictate her dreams. Her unwavering commitment to her business led her to push back against strict COVID restrictions, standing firm in her belief that liberty and choice should never be compromised. Josephine, welcome to Girls Gone Gritty.
Amen.
Thank you. Thank you. So we actually have two locations. We have one in Manhattan as well. And honestly, it's it's surreal now because it's so many years have passed. But yeah, it was a time when, and I turned to my husband and I'm like, we can't start telling people that they're not allowed to come in, sit down, have a cup of coffee, buy a pastry, tell them, oh, I have to check to see if you're vaccinated before you can, cross this store line. And it took a lot of guts, I guess. But at the time, I wasn't even thinking that. I was just thinking, I have to fight and we have to start fighting for people. And that's exactly what happened.
I don't think that was the first time. I want to know, young Josephine, when's the first time you made a stand that you remember?
Oh, my God. I think I always had this, I need to support people, save the world type feeling inside of me. And I can't exactly remember something that I did when I was younger. Definitely stood up, for my brothers and sisters because I was the oldest. I know my parents were very strict, so I guess it started from there, going against the grain started at a very young age. But I can't remember anything that I did that was
like a defining moment.
Honestly, I would say that COVID was my defining moment. It was the day that, it was the time that I woke up. It was the time that I looked at the world in a completely different way that I did previously. My whole outlook on everything that I was taught from a little girl just in an instant, just blew up. And I realized that my faith in government, my faith in humanity, my faith in so many different things was just questioned to the core because that foundation I thought I had didn't exist anymore. I couldn't believe that that my mayor, Bill de Blasio, at the time was telling me, we're going to unlock New York City, but before we do that, you just have to make sure everybody's vaccinated. And those under 12, well, we don't have to worry about them, but, we're going to get those kids vaccinated too. And they can't come in to you, or they can't go to a movie, or they can't go anywhere unless we do this. And I was like, absolutely not.
So crazy.
Yeah. It doesn't fly.
No.
I mean, the whole COVID train of being boosted and you get a double boost and another boost. I still wonder if de Blasio ever got the vaccine. I swear it's saline.
Well, I've become, an anti-vaxxer. I don't know if that's a great thing to say. I've become a flat earther, anti-vaxxer.
Did you get the COVID vaccine?
Absolutely not.
Okay, good for you. We were sending kids to college and I was like, I am not letting my child get a jab and me not do it because they're athletes. I was like,
and that's the real sad thing. I mean, your government was telling you had to do something to participate in everyday normal life. Yeah. You needed to get vaccinated to work. You needed to get vaccinated to go to school. You needed to be vaccinated to go see a movie. If people didn't question that and see that there was something wrong with it. I mean, listen, in the beginning of the COVID, whatever you want to call it, pandemic, whatever you want to call it. In the beginning, I really just went along with it. I masked. I took people's temperatures. I did it all. But as it went along, it kept feeling very unnatural. It didn't seem right. And I was just like, no, this is not going to happen. I mean, as soon as, like I said, Bill de Blasio announced that we were going to be, checking vaccines, I was just like, no. And I made this huge sign that I put out on the window of both our locations, basically saying that we wouldn't discriminate and people could come in. And, I thought I was going to get a brick thrown through my window. I was convinced that I was going to lose everything. I was convinced that, listen, the pastry shop was not mine. It's my husband and his family. And there's a legacy to that. His father, my husband's father, came in 1957, started in this location as a dishwasher, moved on to being a baker, then became a partner, and then, bought the business. It's a business that was there from the late 1800s. And I was about to throw their entire legacy out the window. I was so scared. And the thing that used to bother me the most was when people used to tell me, I have to get vaccinated because I have to go to work. I have to get vaccinated because, I won't be able to go out to dinner. My kid has to be vaccinated because they have to go to college. I have to support my family. I wanted to turn around to these people and be like, we're responsible for about 24, 25. I have a mortgage. I have 2 mortgages, actually. I have car payments. I have kids in school. I'm in the same boat as everybody else. I just wished that more businesses stood up and more people stood up and said, absolutely not. So I just became this voice by accident. I mean, there were people here in New Jersey. I think the Atlas Gym in New Jersey, Ian Smith. And of course, he's actually a pioneer. He was on Tucker Carlson all the time. And then you had Danny Presti, who was out in Staten Island. He was a bar owner that actually, he got arrested during COVID when it was like people were still really scared and everybody was staying home. Those people are real pioneers. I kind of came into it at the end or in the middle of it and was just like, no, enough is enough. And I wished that more people stood with me. And I think my biggest disappointment during that whole time was that there weren't more people like me that were like, okay, let's do this. I had this vision of, this kumbaya moment that people would all walk into the streets and we'd hold hands and we'd be like, no, everybody, we're not doing this. That didn't happen, but I'm happy that I did it because at the end of the day, I think more people are now realizing, wow, maybe we shouldn't have, done this. Maybe we really should have been a voice and stood against, people who are telling us we had to.
We can't be cattle. I feel like we're becoming cattle on every level. They're making us lazy. They're dumbing us down, and we're cattle. And in that moment, I think a lot of us were mooing instead of like barking.
My husband is a ski patrol first responder. We moved to Vermont during the pandemic. He wanted to help the mountain. And they said, oh, you're going to get vaccinated. Calls his friend who's a doctor at Harvard. It's okay. It's safe. It's great. There's no repercussions. Well, you fast forward now, I'm vaccine injured, so I'm really pissed off. My biggest thing right now would be like, I wish I could turn back time to not have gotten it.
I reached out to a doctor of mine who happened to be a Fred. And I'm like, Dr. Fred, I had COVID. I believed at the time that I had COVID. I'm like, I have immunity. I don't need to get vaccinated. Can you please do me a favor and write a letter, so that I could say that I have immunity and I don't have to get vaccinated? He told me he wouldn't do it because he's like, I can't do it. I did it for a college kid who had to play football. And then the health agency's writing me, they're going to pull my license. I can't do that for you. He's like, go to somebody else. So, I mean, we even had, government agency lawyers wouldn't help me. I have a suit against New York City right now. It went to appeal and then it got dismissed and we're going to reapply and, sue again. Because all the information that the city said that we needed to be vaccinated, the health commissioner saying, he basically was having drug-fueled parties when we were supposed to be in lockdown. So
that was our narrative.
And we were supposed to use his information. That's one of the reasons why my lawsuit got dismissed based on whatever this health commissioner said. Well, you were out partying, so you weren't actually, abiding by the same regulations you gave us. I mean, it's unfortunate.
It's the money-making scheme is the problem. And they didn't.
Well, Pfizer got rich and so did Moderna. Dr. Fauci used the same refurbished drugs for COVID that he did during the AIDS epidemic. I mean, it was killing people then.
Right.
He killed so many young people. I mean, I don't know if your audience is even aware. And I hate to even be the one. Like,
we exist to say what we feel and to be true.
Yeah, now we're throwing decades and years of information, medical information, down the drain because Dr. Fauci keeps changing his tune, or anybody's changing their tune.
Yeah. Hey, there's a new vaccine out for.
So my dad was just actually, my father got discharged yesterday, but he was in the hospital for about 6 weeks, and they kept asking, well, has your father been vaccinated for COVID? Does he need a booster? Is he up to date? What is his double pneumonia that he has from COPD have to do with COVID? Absolutely nothing. He doesn't need to be vaccinated. Let's treat him, get him healthy so we can get him out of here. But yes, they are still pushing it in hospitals. They're pushing it everywhere. If you watch TV, if you're, watch the news, you constantly have to be reminded on getting your flu shot, get your COVID vaccine and whatnot, your booster shot. So yeah, they're going to keep going with this. I just hope that people are more aware. I hope people are more educated. I hope
Wake up. You mentioned at one point that you were worried that you were going to kind of like ruin the legacy. How did you start becoming the girl boss at Roccos?
So I'm very, very vocal. I have a big mouth. I'm very hands-on. I've had my own businesses. When I was younger, I actually was in fashion and retail. I had 3 clothing stores by the time I was 21. So I was always business-minded, business-oriented. And when I met my husband at the time I was dating him, Roccos was a very mom and pop type location. I guess if you went to New York City in the 70s and the 80s and you went to Roccos, it was, it was a crazy house. It was this tourist spot. It's just kind of like chaotic. And when I met my husband and I started helping him, I was like, let's start streamlining this place. Let's, get on the internet. Let's, change to POS systems. Let's bring it up to date. Let's not use calculators, paper and pen and try to figure everything out. So I guess that's where, I came in and started, making changes here and there. And,
and they trusted you.
They did trust me. And, I was the reason why we went into wholesale.
Yeah. You didn't just take over.
No, I know. But it's great to have
that's
the growth.
That's my personality. I'm kind of like a takeover.
Hey, if men let us, we will do it all.
Yeah.
Truly, we show them that we can do it and then they let us.
And then running a company as a female, it's tough. You have obstacles all the time. We have a boat manufacturing business in Florida. So I was kind of in a man's world designing boats and manufacturing. And there's always people that go, wait, you're a woman, this can't happen. So do you find that in your business?
I find that all the time. Yeah. I have stories where I've had to, you as a business, you can get shaken down, right?
Oh, yeah.
There'll be people that come in and try to shake you down. And I've stood up to those people and they look at me like, who's the boss? And I'm like, you're looking at them. They don't want to speak to women. They really just believe we don't know what we're talking about. Where's the boss? I get that all the time. But there's nothing like a woman's touch. There's nothing like a woman's intuition. There's nothing like a woman taking charge and leading. You women are obviously doing it. Like I was telling you before, I was reading your biographies and I'm like, wow, I'm pretty boring compared to these women. Yeah, there's nothing like a woman who's confident, a woman who knows what she's talking about, a woman who's not afraid, to go against the grain. Yeah, and I think, shame on those people who, don't respect us for that.
So when you go against the grain and you went against the grain with the COVID and you start to pull back on some things, this is where I come to with a lot of this conspiracy type stuff. Where does that stop? Because if we believe the COVID situation, which I'm not saying I don't have very emotional responses from it, but then the healthcare system's involved. And if the healthcare system's involved, then the hospitals are involved. And the hospitals are involved, and the doctors are involved. And the level of conspiracy that builds in every industry, knowing
profitability,
that not only that, but you think about the fact that everybody's sick because we sanitized everything to death. We're so disconnected from the earth. How is a woman who's got children and has a business and has this community, how do you manage not completely spiraling into a state of panic or a state of just not willingness to be in society? Because it's a lot.
Well,
she doesn't watch the news anymore.
I don't. I turned everything off. It's sad. Even listening to music now bothers me sometimes because, look at P. Diddy.
Yeah.
Everything's compromised. Every facet of the world that we know is compromised. And yeah, there's a huge level of distrust that I have now. I don't trust hospitals. I don't trust doctors because it's simple. If you're being told as a doctor, like I said, I called my friend who's a doctor and like, Dr. Fred, help me out. I can't because of this. So, it keeps going up the chain, right? Yep. I love New York City. I'm all about New York City. I went to school in New York City. I'm very patriotic. I loved my country. I just felt like New York City didn't want me anymore. New York City didn't want somebody who was a business owner and a mother and paid their taxes and was really a good person in society. We all break the law. I'm sure I break laws every day. But generally speaking, if you tell me to put my seatbelt on, I'm going to put my seatbelt on. I'm not a lawbreaker and I just felt like, why am I here in a city that I've given my everything to and they don't want me anymore? And I just, I made the decision to leave. We moved to North Carolina about a year and a half ago. I still love New York, but I mean, I think I love the old New York.
Oh, so do
I do. It's just, it's sad because I don't trust anything. I am in a state of panic. I can't trust a lot of the things that I read anymore. I try to get information from all sources.
You're not asleep at the wheel. A lot of people are. We keep saying in this podcast, like, hey, people, wake up. Like, don't be okay with this, and ask questions or take a stand and use your voice and make sure that you have an opinion and that you're educated enough to actually be able to back up why your opinion is what it is.
Well, and flip the channel. And that's the other part that people forget. It's like, if you're getting your source from one lane, like, you're not getting the full story. And you can call it what it is, but not only do they have one lane, but then the algorithms all point you into the same thing. So you think that that's the way everybody thinks.
No, you got to go.
It's not the way, and it's not the way everybody thinks. And I also think that, I had a next door neighbor for years who only sourced things from the newspaper, And he was the most educated, well-versed human being that I knew. And he would be my person that he would be like my touchstone, because I'd be like, okay, the world's spiraling. I don't know what to think. And this is before COVID. Used to say 'twas ever thus. And if you know history and you look at the way that things are controlled, you can see that we're going to know more truth in about 10 years as to what really happened. And it'll be a little asterisk at the bottom of a news story, like, oops, sorry. Like, sorry.
Which they're finding out now.
Yeah,
so much of that.
I mean, you the headline, but you always should go to the last. When I read, it's usually the headline, the first paragraph, maybe the second, and then I'll go to the last paragraph. Because in the last paragraph, you'll get that the headline and the story that they're trying to tell you isn't really the story they're trying to tell you. It's just to grab you.
Yep.
And what do most people do? They
read
read the headline, world's on fire. They'll read that headline. They'll believe it. They go around, tell their neighbors, oh my God, did you read that? They never read through a story or get to the end where the truth kind of lies. It's always there at the end. And you're right. People don't know history. People don't know or aren't even willing to take a step back and say, okay, so why is A, B, and C equaling D and E? They just, nobody has taken the time. And it's like we were talking before.
Repeats itself.
Google is in front, they'll Google it. And if Google tells you it's the truth, or if Google tells you, then that's all they need to know. And it's really unfortunate because, medical books, they're changing the medical books now with gender. Listen, I don't care how people identify. It does not matter to me. You decide you want to be, a kitty cat for the day, whatever rocks your boat. I'm not going to question you. But the fact that we're now going back and changing our medical books to identify certain genders, this is medical school students are learning that there are different genders other than male and female. I don't know.
We don't agree with that. It's too hard.
Wow, they're changing. They change everything. They're going backwards. And the problem going back to the digital age that we're in, and we talked about this before too, is that they can literally erase history. Like, it used to be, at least there would be a statue or there'd be a ledger, and they kept like historical data on things. Everything being digitized, you don't even know what truly happened. And now with the ability for them to have, fake everything, like fake, I can make somebody look, an AI look to be me, speaking me, and learn me, and pretend they're me.
Terrifying.
And everybody can believe it's me. And I'm a nobody. God forbid you're somebody that wants to say something. I believe society is going to get to a place where, and it's going to be beautiful, I believe, at some point with communities, where the only way I do business with you is if I can touch you. The only way that I engage in anything with you is if I know you personally. And it's going to create a community that comes back and goes backwards from this society of everybody just being like, oh, I just can click it online and the DoorDash will come to my door and I don't have to touch anybody. I don't have to look you in the eye. And that's a problem too, because it empowers the wrong behavior. The people that are nasty, the people that are ugly, that they feel like they're everywhere.
I kind of went against the grain. We weren't supposed to let people sit. I was quietly letting people sit down. So many older people saying, thank you. I'm so depressed. I just, I can't stay home alone. I can't see my family, and I would let them sit there and they were just in their glory. Because
What's a routine?
It's a routine. Like how many people, what about people who like died alone? I mean, I can't even,
Now,
I can't even.
Well, what the pandemic did to people's mental health is actually a whole other segment.
That's a
I mean, that is
pandemic right now.
You can. I'm in the service industry. The mental decline across the board that I see from people that were, I mean, maybe you're going to have people that naturally, have mental problems as they get older or whatnot. But as a whole, the mental decline that I see on a day-to-day basis is staggering. It's unbelievable. And of course, it's from COVID. Even kids, they don't know how to socialize. It just brought them back to the towel. It's everywhere across the board. But I would say the older population, for sure, are not the same. There were many, many different people that were my regulars. Unfortunately, some of them passed.
I want to be a regular somewhere. I love being a local.
regular Val's.
I am a regular.
Definitely.
So the people,
Yes.
I mean, that's who keeps you going.
Our cheer section. I mean, we have a Sunday God Squad.
Love that.
Sorry.
So good.
There's a Sunday God Squad. Yeah, they're
Great. Doesn't matter how late or when you find God.
And they're an unlikely alliance. We have a retired mob something boss. I don't know. We have Bill, who is he was a veteran and he flew helicopters, and then we have this woman Amelia, who she was a nun and then got married. She's older too.
But I love that.
I mean, yeah. So we and our retired mob guy, his name's Tommy. He's a great guy. Do you guys know him?
We might have met him.
And all three members of that God Squad are very dear to me. The retired mob boss, or whatever his story is, has become one of my closest friends. And
That's a good friend to have.
It is.
I'd like one of those in my pocket.
It is a good. He's a great friend to have.
But that's what you look forward to. It's like you meet your people, and it takes away with having it be the worst time during COVID to, hey, you it's like, all right, let's make the
social
best of
skill
it.
that's like being lost, because like the youth of America aren't sitting down and having a conversation with the person that they're sitting next to. It's a beautiful lost art. You're telling us about people and their stories because it's intimate to actually have a conversation, and it just doesn't seem like it happens like it once did. People aren't open to it. They're
on their phones.
Yeah, they're absolutely like not present. And, before you know it, you don't know anybody's stories anymore.
Well, and then the other problem is that's happening in your industry is, I mean, you watch, you go up the street. It used to be a mom and pop shop and a small bakery, and now it's like cha-ching, and that's a tremendous problem, because if we talk about health and wellness, and the mental health is huge, but what we get fed and what we consume is enormous in the gut health and biome, and having somebody prepare something from scratch
and QT
and the love and the care that goes into it is going away. I mean, what do you think about what's happening with the state of food?
I mean, it's scary, right? So, I mean, again, not until COVID did I know, look, seed oils were bad for you. I thought, corn oil was great. I mean, my mother cooked with it when I was younger. It's so funny because I used to think that all these like earth people or herb people or, alternate natural medicine people were nuts, but now I realize everything that they were telling me when I was younger is probably, what I should be listening to. But it's scary because it's hard to find chicken without hormones, right? You have to find natural, grass-fed, and you have to make sure that things aren't processed. And it's hard because, I mean, the less expensive route is to go with everything that's going to kill you or really not good for you.
Right.
And it's hard to source things that are good for your customers and just feed them and make sure you're not hurting them or making them sick. But yeah, it's crazy how all our food
big tobacco's in bed with food companies and teaching them how to get us addicted to sugar.
Well, yeah. Yeah.
It's terrifying.
What is the specialty at Roccos? Like, what do people go for? What are they known for?
We are famous for our cannolis. Our cannolis made us famous. I think we have the best cannolis, the best rainbow cookies, black and whites, and pinoles. That's our dessert on the dessert end. We have an amazing sfogliatella, if you know what that is. It's a flaky pastry with the ricotta cheese on the inside. Authentic Italian. For food, I definitely think anything breakfast, especially our pancakes. But I think overall, I think we're very solid. And I think we're great everywhere. So
are you Italian?
I am.
As well?
I am Italian.
So, and your husband's family obviously immigrated from
Italy. Yes.
So do you guys go back to Italy and compare and contrast how they do things and the way you do things?
I mean, it's definitely, you go to Italy and you eat a lot more and you don't gain any weight and you do a lot more walking, and it's definitely, you drink much
wine
better.
And you don't
feel anything. No,
pasta, no gluten stuff.
Yeah. I mean, well, the EU has banned a lot of the ingredients that we still use here in the United States. Yeah. I mean, yeah.
What does the FDA do here? I don't understand.
Well, I'm not sure.
That's for another topic.
But I'm pumped.
Yeah, that's a different.
They're in bed with all the food companies.
Yes,
I know in Europe you can't buy Skittles. Okay, Skittles are illegal, yet we're giving them out to every kid that knocks on our door for Halloween.
But it's bigger than that. It's not even. It's they've decided the way that the food pyramid works. They've decided that
isn't it crazy that all the things that they tell you are good for you aren't?
Yes, because it has to do with what the industry lobbyists. It actually has to do with the way that our system is set up. And if you can affect the laws, you can tell people what to do and tell them that they can't eat someplace that they're not allowed to eat. It's just how quickly I can get you in control.
Well, we're also, I mean, since I was little, you have to drink your glass of milk. You have to have your cereal in the morning. You have to have your toast and everything is taught from when we were little from television. So you grow up thinking all these things are really good for you, and this is the way we're supposed to feed our families. To learn, wow, I was completely misled my whole life. Yeah, it's scary.
Would you ever consider running in politics, like for political office of any sort?
I was asked to do that, but I just, I am not a politician. I don't think
that's why you should run.
Right. I don't. But
that's why she wouldn't win.
That's why I wouldn't win. I don't even think I would be a contender. Unfortunately, even on the lower end of politics, everything is so compromised. I mean, I knew people that really should have been, candidates, and they were, but because they didn't go along with the party and what the party wanted and listening to what of the party's policies were, you don't make it too far. You don't get the signatures, or they're just going to make sure your signatures aren't valid to even get on the ballot.
Yeah, happened to me when I fought the cell tower. For those of you that remember that. Which again is another like political corruption and government,
and it is election
businesses being in bed with our government. I fought it unsuccessfully in our town, Little Silver, where they put this cell tower up 500 feet from our middle school, where it still sits. But the point of the story is because I got so upset and was very involved, I tried to run for a small county commission, and I was at that moment I was a registered Republican. Well, because I came out against business, I was very quickly dismissed. Right. And they ran a woman against me. This seat had been vacant for 8 years. Nobody was in the seat. I ran for the seat. They ran a woman who has a house, didn't send any of her kids to the district, doesn't really live here, but it's her primary residence on paper. And she ran against me, and I lost by 3 votes. And it was this. They don't want you standing up and saying something. And again, God forbid you're female and you say it and you actually open up your mouth and you can articulate a few things. They don't want to hear you. And it's unfortunate. It won't stop me like you. I did that, and then I fought a plastic bag bang.
Gritty here.
Yeah.
So
keeping it real.
I know.
But it's a problem. The politics of the way politics and business is a tremendous problem in this country, in my view. And it's the source of all evil, in my view, because the politics are not of the people, for the people, by the people at this moment.
No, or they'll vet you and find something, or they'll vet you and find something. God knows what I did when I was younger or something like that. I have no idea. But I definitely was approached. Again, I just, like you said, I knew that, and this is so sad to know before you even go into it, I've got no shot.
It's a bummer.
I mean,
with our country.
Yeah. I mean, well,
I mean, there's so many problems,
they did
but
it to Trump too. They did it to him, and they didn't expect that he'd get elected in 2016. But yeah, I just don't see making it anywhere. And then I don't see compromising my values and who I am to go along with something that I don't completely agree with. So yeah,
that's what we all have to remember is it's like your core what you stand for, what you believe in, your own personal belief system, like make some noise. If you don't like what you're hearing, if you disagree, make some noise, instead of, yeah, exactly.
Made some noise. I love when women
and to your point, follow your intuition, because I mean, I think a lot of us all thought like, this doesn't really make sense. There were a couple of times where there was a situation where I would do things. My husband wasn't feeling well at one point. He's like, I'm going to get tested. If you go get tested right now, what happens?
We don't need that info.
We don't need that information. If you don't know you have, air quotes, COVID, nothing happens.
The flu, whatever.
If you stay home and in bed, we're good. We can go to the playoffs. We can not destroy an entire season of a soccer team. But, everybody wants to do the right thing in that instance. And sometimes the right thing is to do nothing. And sometimes the right thing is to stand up and take a stand. So I love the fact that you are our grip maker of
absolutely. You are.
Thank you.
No, I love that you stood up for yourself, for the shop, kind of fighting City Hall because it needed
for all
to be
of us.
done.
And for all of us, for everybody.
I love it.
Love what you did with it too when you put up your sign and you made it very.
You need to see
very relatable. We'll put it up on our
the sign is epic.
But it made it very relatable. Like, this wouldn't have been okay when we were trying to segregate people. This wouldn't have been okay if we filled in other blanks with the two things.
Well, I used to say this all the time. I tried to explain to people. I mean, so our Manhattan location is in the center of Greenwich Village. During the AIDS epidemic, we tell people you can't come inside because of the fear of AIDS. We didn't discriminate then. We didn't tell people they weren't allowed to enter and go use the restroom because of a fear of an unknown virus. People were allowed to come in. They were allowed to patronize. There was no discrimination then. Why now, in the year 2020 or whatever it is, we're telling people you can't come inside because you might have COVID and you have to be vaccinated against them. I thought it was crazy.
Like sitting in the back of the bus.
Just didn't even understand. I still don't understand how people don't see that
Her sign says, by the way, we do not discriminate. Sex, gender, race, creed, age, vaccinated or unvaccinated. We are, all customers who wish to patronize are welcome in our establishment. Amen. That was in black and white, which is also ironic, right? You took us back and here we go.
Yeah.
Awesome.
No, somebody took that. There was he was a Turkish kid named Ari, who came in and was like, am I allowed to distribute this and put this on T-shirts? And, it's not my sign. I'm like, you do,
Fantastic.
Whatever you want. You can make money on it. You can do whatever you want. I didn't care. It was more about get this message out and make sure that, everybody has this at least out in their window or, I have to tell you, I at that time, it was like I was celebrity status and I just couldn't even handle it. I didn't even know what I did. All I did was just tell people like, this is not okay. And it was just nuts. It was a really, really crazy time. But yeah, I just hope that if there is a
you
second
were a
time
pioneer.
around,
you were giving everybody else props about being a pioneer, and you were a pioneer.
And you reminded everybody about the importance of liberty and freedom. Is really why I think most people,
which is why history repeats itself. You've got Harriet Tubman. You've got all these people that stand up for something that they believe in, and it's no different than a million things.
That's
in the
really
past.
nice next to Harriet Tubman. That's an honor.
I know she's like one of my freaking heroes.
Thank you.
Well, it's
thank
true.
you.
Let's be
that's
real.
like, am I blushing?
No, we were so excited to have you on the show and hear your story.
Fun.
Everybody needs to go look at Katie Couric's Instagram page. She posted some very beautiful visuals from the New York City Marathon, and it was all walks of life, celebrating and supporting each other. People picking people up off the ground, hugging, high-fiving. It showed that we can be unified. And New York City is a beautiful place to start that. So why can we be that way on one day? If we can do that on one day, why can't we repeat it over and over again?
Unfortunately, I think it's because, people consume too much media and they can really teach us very easily without realizing how to hate each other, how to dislike each other, how not to agree. But if people turned all of that off and just looked at each other,
we're all humans.
We're all human.
We're all trying to do the same thing here, people.
Yeah.
We're all trying to do the same thing here.
Exactly.
Trying to live a good life, provide for our family, share a little bit of love, a little bit of laugh, lots of grit,
Lots of grit.
And
I'm going to say it, the pussification of society has
God.
got to stop. Uncle, please.
And on that note, thank you so much for coming on to Girls Gone Creative. We love.
We're going to see you again.
Yeah,
sure.
It's been so much fun.
Yeah, it's just.
Thank you.